ideas will be examples of Italian creativity and innovation. So very talented people who came up with ideas in order to face the coronavirus difficulties. And let's start with the next speaker. Let's watch a video clip together.
So, today with us is Lorenzo Abeni, Marco Ruocco, both from Isinnova. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, guys, together with your Isinnova team, you created out of the blue something that went into the newspaper headlines, all of the magazines and newspapers. So basically, you had this idea of patenting the Decathlon mask respirator. Everybody knows that now. It's something that is well known. But first of all, we'd like to thank you because this application, this patent, is for sure useful for everybody, not just in Italy. Can you please tell us something about it, how you came to the idea of this patent? Tell us something. So first of all, let's say that what started the whole thing was something that happened a few days before the Decathlon mask, because we came out with this valve, which is a mixing valve to mix oxygen before administering oxygen to intensive care patients. A hospital in our area ran out of these valves. The supplier wasn't able to supply the valves on time or in reasonable time to tackle with the emergency. And so the Brescia society is very small, and we know each other in terms of 3D printing facilities and so on and so forth. So the hospital was in touch with us. We tried to understand what we could do. We took a valve, and thanks to our team, we printed some of the valves and brought them to the hospital. They tested them, they were working, and therefore this event had media impact, of course, and the main physician of the therapy unit explained this to everybody, and also found a very vital component for the masks and asked us to develop it. So we tried to understand what we could do. And the idea was to use something that was already available in the market and possibly change it, modify it in order to adapt it to intensive therapy treatment. And the mask that was very well known all over the world, it's a very well-known and widespread snorkeling mask by Decathlon, was the ideal element. We understood how to change it, to adapt it, and then we came out with this valve, this connection valve, or as connection unit. So we came out with injection molds for 3D printing, and we printed it. And of course, all of the makers were involved in this. All those who wanted to cover it in a platform made themselves available to cover it with the hospitals and print. So we asked Decathlon as well to make the project of the masks available. There were associations that collected the masks and sanitized the masks in order to use them, and the project started then. Several hospitals are actually using these devices. So this is the whole picture, and this is a description of how the patent was introduced. So you showed us the main stages. What are the relationships you have with the hospitals right now, and what are the next steps for the future? Well, at first, the project was introduced in Lombardy, and the Chiari Hospital was very precious for tests on first patients, especially for medical reports and advice. And then we started with the Brescia Hospital as well, which is bigger and more important in terms of tests we can perform. But in the meantime, the idea was published in newspapers, and the main hospitals in Italy started to call us. So Rovere Hospital, Novara Hospital, Messina Hospital, Tuscan hospitals. So it's no longer under our control, basically, but this is positive because our idea was to implement an open source project where demand and offer could meet each other without any intermediate partner, without any bottleneck in a way in between, because of course we weren't able to manage the whole demand all over Italy. And therefore, we publish everything in our website, which is www.isinnova.it, easy COVID-19. And we made everything available to the hospitals. And the offer was so wide that we had to come up with an industrial mold. We also expanded to foreign countries. In average development countries like Tunisia, Uzbekistan, and other countries, but also advanced countries like Germany, UK, US. And we're also in touch with some Southeast Asian countries which wanted the file and asked for some explanations of the project in order to implement the project in those countries as well. So the project went well and went how we planned, because it's an open source project and many hospitals independently implemented their masks and their experimentation stages. So we stated, of course, that this tool has to be used in emergency situations when certified medical devices are no longer available, depending on the requests, of course, and the numbers, of course. But overall, the feedback was very positive because hospitals keep using them. We are still cooperating with the hospitals in our area to improve the system, to make tests. We're also in touch with institutions and official bodies who asked us to make some tests and wanted some reports to show that everything is going well as it is supposed to be. And of course, everything turned into an international cooperation. In our website, when we opened the makers form, we asked the makers to volunteer and to make themselves available on a voluntary basis. And now if we look at the website, we've got a long list of makers from all over the world, from Africa, from South America and the rest of the world. We've got over 1,700 makers from all over the world, private people or companies, bigger, smaller companies who really made themselves available for the tests and to implement the project. This is very good, a very beautiful thing that happened in Italy, but also all over the world. So giving a vision of how important cooperation is the main thing about it, because it's a grassroots level digital innovation. So based on this network, many people were involved. All the makers are very active in this sense. After you, Paolo Mirabelli will tell us something. He's doing something from Cosenza, working on these topics as well. And he is... So we can see how innovation is like music, something that reaches everybody, really. I also wanted to ask you to clarify something that is a question mark for many people, so certified devices and products, because, of course, it's all about it as well. The system was patented, so you've got an invention that is patented, and then products have to be certified. Can you tell us something more about it? So that people that are following us from home, from all over the world, can get this information. Yes, I'm going to do something, then Marco can possibly add something. So we thought that the best way to disseminate the project was to use the so-called compassionate care. So basically, in clear emergency cases and just in emergency cases. When an official supplier is not able to supply the official product, it is allowed based on the hospital's consent and on the patient's consent. So you need to have two authorizations to use non-certified products. In case, for instance, you need to save a patient's life and you don't have an official product, but you have a non-certified product that can save a life, then it is possible to use it, or at least temporarily, even if you don't have any CE marking. But of course, the ministry and other official bodies need to approve compassionate care as well. Of course, for compassionate care, you need to have some tests. So, although these tests are not as detailed and through as the certification tests, but still they can be reliable. As Isinnova, we have little experience in the medical field, namely with another product we are developing, which has nothing to do with COVID. But we know how long the red tape is, to get all the certifications and to get all of the tests done. These certifications are unfortunately not compatible with emergency situations because, of course, the time that you need to get the certification is too long for an emergency situation. So we made an instrument, a tool available for physicians, for doctors to use it when they deem it necessary. From the certification point of view, as Lorenzo said, we've got the authorization to compassionate care use, and this is something that some hospitals are doing in order to use the system and optimize it. Of course, everything's also based on the doctor's conscience and experience. Some topics are very delicate, of course, but we are still cooperating with institutions and hospitals in order to shape all of this, in order to reassure users as well. The situation has not been unlocked yet, but a project was started, which is a different project than the Isinnova one, which will, however, have an impact after the COVID emergency. When the emergency will stop, we will, of course, carry on with this project and we will conclude it and achieve all of the necessary certifications and steps. And of course, we will make a more in-depth analysis and work. Thank you very much for your work, you and your team. You confirm the sentence that is written behind you. Ideas without execution, without implementation, are hallucinations. So thank you very much for your work and take care.